Bird, 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 bird! Get him, yeah! Ron Babe was right. Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. Hey everybody, it's Ron Bain with the Hunting Dog Podcast. It is the 15th of December, and you're wondering what's going on, Ron? No Sunday, no Monday, no Tuesday. Look, I had to take a trip down and see the grandkids, my daughter and son-in-law. Just a big trip, not out of the blue, well planned, but you know what? I thought I could get it done when I got here. 2 grandkids that want to see Big Poppy. Yeah, it didn't work so well. So anyway, finally. Anyway, yeah, they're laying down for a nap, and I'm gonna try to get this done, get it out there. And this is a podcast that I actually did on another person's podcast, and you're gonna end up getting 5 episodes this month anyway. But wanted to throw this out there, and also wanted to thank all of you who took part of the cyber sale. The cyber sale for the Upland Institute. It was great. It was great. A few people even wrote me afterwards because I know what happens. Like sometimes you don't listen to a podcast until it's been out for 3 weeks or 2 weeks, right? And they listen to it and they're like, "Oh, it was only good till the 10th of December." Well, I'm just letting you know. It's Christmas in December, okay? If you happen to write me, okay? If you happen to write me and go, "Ron, I drive a train and I can't listen to a podcast when I'm on a train and it's cross country," and you know what I'm saying. If your listening schedule forced you to miss out on our cyber sale for the Upland Institute, all you have to do is write me an email, and because I don't want anybody to miss out. Because don't be a freeloader. Don't be like, "No, I wasn't going to buy it. No, you know what? I'll buy it now." No, I really want people. I know how people listen to podcasts. Sometimes you don't listen to them for a month, and then you're on a big trip and you binge them, and that happened. 2 people actually wrote me, and I took care of them. So I'll take care of you too, whoever you are. All you got to do is write me and say, "Ron, missed the cyber sale," and I'll just write you back and scold you for not, listening to my podcast every Monday morning, and that's fine. Anyway, so this is going to be a podcast I did on another fella's podcast. Yeah, and we shared it, and I've got a copy of it, and thought you might like it. It's pretty interesting, and he's got a new Munsterlander coming, and he actually wrote me to be a guest on his show, but he had dog questions, so it's about dogs, and it's a lot of my opinion. Boy, I probably should have re-listened to it, but I don't think we did anything out of the ordinary. And I'm going to save your ears from a ridiculously long sponsor roll call, other than to say thank you to my Patreon patrons, always. And don't forget, in January, there's going to be another tier of patrons, another tier to join, because I got something coming up called Dog Talk. Unfiltered, uncensored, unsober, unwoke. Should be called Undog Talk. Anyway, that's coming up. Anyway, my Patreon patrons, I love you to pieces. Pike Gear, my title sponsor. Onyx, Know Where You Stand. CZ USA, you can't get a better gun for the dollar. Boss Shot Shells, you can't flat out get a better shot shell than Boss Shot Shells. Walton's has everything for you to meet. And don't forget, I know it's late now, and it's probably a little late for your Christmas list, but get the Walton's magazine, or the catalog. And when you fill it out online to ask for it, it'll ask you, "How did you hear about it?" And you will check off, "Oh, heard it on the Hunting Dog Podcast." And that goes a long way. And plus, you're going to love turning your extra kitchen into a professional kitchen with all the stuff they got. It's not just spices. It's not just grinders. It's everything for a kitchen. Anyway, I was going to shorten this up. Purina, the #1 dog food in the world. Gunner Kennels, the #1 dog kennel in the world. Garmin, the #1 dog training and navigation collar in the world. canine athlete, the best dog supplement and people supplement in the world. W Hunting Supply. Well, this is a layup. The best service you can get from a company in the world. Deck drawer systems, the absolute best thing I have ever put in my truck. Almost a year and a half now, and that thing is just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. Don't forget, maybe a subscription to Shooting Sportsman magazine in your stocking. And again, to just beat you over the head with this, but I'm known for beating you over the head with everything. My daughter, Jessie, I told you, started her podcast, The Intuitive Kitchen. You can check out her stuff, all of her stuff, at The Intuitive Kitchen. But it's like the.intuitive.kitchen. Whatever it is. Go to Instagram. You'll find her, Jessie Holden, The Intuitive Kitchen. And then check out her podcast. If you're a foodie, and if you're a Walton's person, you're going to be a foodie. You're going to like her stuff. All about, what is it really about? It's about intuitive eating. Yeah. And she's a genius. And I love her. So listen to her stuff. Check her out on Instagram. See ya. Here is Travis Bader from the Silvercore Podcast, up in Canada, up north of the border. Hope you have a good one. Bye.
Today I'm joined by the host of the Hunting Dog Podcast, recurring guest on Meat Eater, passionate upland game hunter, dog handler, and all-around cool guy, Ron Boehm. Ron, I'm really excited to be chatting with you on this Hunting Dog Silvercore Swapcast.
Cool. Yeah, you wrote me, Travis, and you said one key word to pique my interest. You're thinking about getting a bird dog. So,
I am thinking about getting a bird dog, yes.
So why would you do something so stupid?
Honestly, so I've had dogs before. Previously, I had Border Collie, and smart as a whip, easy to train, had it trained doing everything I wanted, but not as a hunting dog.
Right.
The kids had kids come on the way, and we realized we weren't giving the dog the attention that it needed. And we have two kids that needed our attention, and I didn't feel that we were being fair to the dog. So, the kids would say, "Oh, our dog's living on a farm now." Well, it actually was. We found some farmers who had some property who could take care of the dog and give it the attention it needed. And I was always of the mindset, I'm not going to get myself another dog until we got a large property, and I want to get a couple because they're pack animals. They want the company. And recently out hunting, I came to the very sudden realization I am tired of retrieving my own birds, and I would love to have a dog. And this happened after about, 3 hours of trying to find a bird that went down but just couldn't find it, and finally had some other hunters come by, and they had dogs, and they were able to help out. So I said, time to get a dog. Texted the wife, and she's immediately looking at all these different breeds. And we're kind of looking at Munsterlanders, but you probably have some ideas on those, right?
Yeah. What I was going to ask you, you are so not alone in this world of how to pick a breed. Because back in the day, if it was kind of always the guy met the guy that he was hunting with, and he got a dog from his friend. And now the wife and the kids always come into the equation. And they get online and they start reading breed descriptions. And you could read, I got several books. I got an encyclopedia over there of all the dog breeds. I've got that great book that Craig Koshik, a fellow Canadian friend of or fellow Canadian of yours, wrote this wonderful book. And it breaks down every continental breed that points in this particular book. And he gives you kind of an explanation, and he tells you the pros and cons, but you'll fall in love with every dog you read on that. Like nowhere in there.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah. So what I was getting at, there's so many families that get involved with picking a dog. And the minute you said your wife, on the inside, I'm going, yeah, you got it. It's not just a dog. It's going to be another kid of some fashion,
Yeah, agreed.
But the upside, I tell everybody, and I probably filter 3 or 4 calls a day, and they end up getting to be long calls with people looking for a first dog. And when I know someone's got that they haven't done it before, I literally ask them 2 different questions. One of them is always, are you married? Right? And then they're like, yeah, it's okay. Do you have kids? And they said, yeah, how old? 5 and 7. Okay, you're not going to have a problem. If you raise that dog and you got kids that you're, 85% happy with, you'll be able to raise a dog.
Right.
But it's just like you've probably met somebody with that first kid and they think they don't know what to do and everything's an emergency and everything's this and everything's that. The worrywart part of being a parent, if you're not a worrywart parent, you got a pretty good kid. I don't care if the kid's 3 or 13. If you did a pretty good job, you're going to do a good job with your dog, whatever breed you get. So there's a silver lining for Silvercore.
Absolutely. Silver lining for Silvercore. Yeah. Well, our kids are 14 and 12 right now. And I don't know. I think we're doing a good job with them. Got a good family unit. Part about getting this dog, though, I said, look, everyone's got to be on the same page. So we're buying some books on training the dog. And what is one of them? The Gentleman's Hunting Dog, I think, was Mike Stewart. And there's another book, a smaller one, a lot of really good information that we're going through right now. But I said, I don't want to train at one thing and have you guys do something different. We got to be unified in our approach.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be important. So what kind of birds up in your neck of the woods would you be chasing? Forest grouse mostly? Are you in what part of Canada?
So I'm in the lower mainland area, and I'm fortunate enough where I live. I mean, we got some great waterfowl hunting. So we've got great ducks and geese. In the area where I'm at, actually, they've got a club that'll release pheasants, and so we can do some pheasant hunting. And then you don't have to travel too far, and we've got a lot of grouse hunting. And all my grouse hunting in the past has been, okay, let's walk the roads and look out for the guard grouse and just try and keep my eyes open. So having a dog will be a completely different dynamic.
It will be. And, especially like the breed you're talking about, the Munsterlander, I've judged a lot of them over the years. Okay. And one of the parts of the versatile hunting dog test is a puppy needs to track a live pheasant. So we disable this pheasant from being able to fly with both wings, and we release it on the ground out of sight of the dog, and we basically shoo it away, like go, 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 right?
Right.
And in an ideal situation, you're in maybe 6 inches of cover, like a hay field or something like that, or a stubble field or something. And ideally that bird runs into some other cover, like a fence row or a woodlot or something. We set this up, and I've said this probably 50 times on my podcast, but I haven't said it to you or your listener. As judges, we cringe sometime when we're like, oh, is this a good spot? Are we giving the dog the best we could give it? Like the cover's kind of sparse. It's kind of just mostly mud, or the cover's too tall, or, we could judge the field search of a dog because you're watching a dog run. No big deal, right? But the track is really important because it's up to us to set up a good track.
Right.
And this has happened dozens of times. Let's say we get a couple of other dogs that aren't, I'm not going to say what breed, they're just not Munsterlanders.
Sure.
And the first couple that dog just didn't inherit a lot of tracking, or use kind of a wild search to track. And the dog can still get some qualifying points, as long as he's making forward progress. But as judges, we're always like, oh, I knew we should have found a different field. And then third dog up is a small Munsterlander. And the person puts the dog out on the track, and it looks like a bloodhound chasing a prisoner right through the swamp. It just
really okay.
It's just now there is the exception to the rule, but I mean, the exception is rare and the rule is strong. Munsties have a hell of a tracking instinct. Well,
that's good to hear.
So that lost bird you looked for forever and ever, I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, amen. That's awesome. So I guess the next question would be, so you get this as a pup, and I think where is it? We're looking at somewhere in the States. There's a breeder out there, so we'll have to fly in, grab it when it's a few months old. Like, at what age do you start their training at?
Well, training kind of starts the day you get it home. You'll hear people say that.
Okay.
But it really does, because dogs learn they only can learn by association. So it's either they got 7 inherited. A pointing dog has 7 inherited traits. Okay, obedience and understanding English language is not one of them. Okay, there's desire, there's search, there's nose, there's tracking, there's water, cooperation. Those things come in the package, but the training starts just like with crate training. I don't know with your border collie if you crate trained it for travel and for the home, or did you let it become a bed puppy and deal with a couple accidents in the house back in the day?
No bed pups. I was raised with having dogs as an outside only dog. Our new dog that we'll be bringing in will have a crate inside the house, and I'm sort of torn between the utility of a dog as well as the fact that you're saying, the kids and the wife and everyone, it becomes part of your family.
Right. So that crate is like your pup's first bedroom. So like when we have kids, they sleep in a bassinet nearby so mom can feed them, and everyone's worried about the new kid. I tell you, when you bring home a new puppy, let's hope it's not before 8 weeks of age. It should be. Okay. I think 10 or 12 is well proven to be a better age to pick them up if it's a good kennel that's really developing their pups. And honestly, that keeps you from having less house accidents at 12 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
They just have a more developed bladder and food system. But so when you bring that dog home, you set that crate. I tell people, set that crate up by a door, closest door to your yard. And when you put that puppy in, when you don't have time to play with the puppy, which would be outside, taking walks, a little bit of house with the kids. Of course, they're going to hold them and watch TV with them and all that stuff.
Sure.
But when you don't have time for the pup, just put him in a crate. And he's going to howl a little bit. And he's probably going to howl the first time you shut the door and you go to bed. But what kid didn't cry the first time you put him in his own crib in his own room?
Right.
And what mother didn't tell their daughter, don't you go in there, because if you go in there once, right?
Yes.
That baby can only learn by association. So you can't tell the baby, it's okay, I'll be back in the morning, and when you wake up at 3, I'm going to nurse you. You can't reason with a baby. You can't reason with a puppy. So you put him in that crate, and you never let him out when he's barking or crying. I mean, there's exceptions. Like you got to make sure that he's already emptied his bladder, and maybe made the poop in the backyard or whatever, or maybe he already pooped on your carpet. Who knows? But you don't want to put him in there if there's a chance that he really has to go to the bathroom. Other than that, even adult dogs can sleep 20 some hours a day when you're not doing nothing. A regular house dog.
Right.
And so you get him used to that crate, and that just starts that crate training. Like, no, it's not about me right now. It's about quiet time. Now, my mom she'd been gone for a long time, but she kidded around. Now, my mom was, I was born in the 50s. So my mom would go next door and have cigarettes and coffee with a neighbor and plop me in a plate. Back in the day, they had 4-foot square wooden playpens, right?
Yeah.
She says, you were raised in a playpen for like 2 years. She goes, I didn't do anything with you.
Kids are easy.
Yeah, kids are easy. And I could, give me a toy, and I was fine, like a dog with a chew toy. But I keep that with the dog. It's like when you don't have the time, put it in the kennel. He is not going to resent that once he gets used to the kennel.
That's good to know.
So when you ask, when does this training start? That's part of it. The next training on that is, in the beginning, you, your kids, your wife are going to open that crate door, and he's going to come running out like, I'm here,
Yeah.
And of course, you got to let him out to the door. They'll always relieve themselves after a nap, pretty much most of the time. Yeah. But after that's developed a little bit, you take that door and you kind of, when they come charging out, you snap it in their face a little bit. Like, and he's going to keep banging his. It is a dog. It's not a kid, so you're not going to get child services after you.
Right.
And I always say, picture yourself trying to get out of Have you ever used a porta-john on a job site?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those doors on them porta-johns can be weird, right?
Yeah.
They can swing back and like you get your hand caught in them once. You're like, no, I know. Porta-john door needs to go all the way out because it's spring-loaded. And if I'm not all the way out the door, it's going to come back and hit me. And for some reason, a porta-john door is grosser than, So
Sure.
The dog's going to think the same thing. You give him a note. Nope. You close that door. And then the minute he kind of is like, should I come out or should I not come out? You open that door a little bit and you get a couple inches out. And then you say, okay. Now he starts learning okay means it's okay.
Right.
And you develop that over a few weeks, right? To the point where when you go to let him out that door, you're going to go, and then you're going to open that door. That door is going to be open 180 degrees, and he's going to be sitting in there, and he's going to be like, say the word okay. You're going to go, okay.
Right.
And then he's going to come out. He's going to come out just like he did when you first got home. You let him out, happy puppy, but he already learned that he's got to wait a little bit.
Right.
So what that does is it establishes you as making the rules for the dog. And that's where so many people go wrong. Just those little things like that. When you go to the door, once he's learned the kennel door, you do the same thing at the house door. As you go out the door, you never let the dog take the lead. You say, don't worry about teaching a dog to sit. I won't ever go into that pointing dog. Some people that never train them to sit. Sit's a default for a dog. If they don't know what to do, they're going to sit. If you want to give it a name, give it a name. But if you don't, I guarantee you, if you keep opening a door and your dog's trying to get out, at some point he's going to go like, I guess I'll just sit. So they're going to sit.
Interesting. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So then you start doing the house door, and he sees that house door goes open. You get one step out under the threshold, and then say, okay, and then he comes out with you. But you take the lead. So that training starts early on. That's just associative training, how to be a good puppy at home, Yeah.
So that sit-stay thing. I had with my last dog, I told him sit, and I said stay, and someone said, why are you telling him to stay? Like if you told him to sit, doesn't that just mean sit? If he gets up 2 seconds later, it's not sitting anymore. So do you teach stay?
Yeah, I will enforce the duration of the sit later on.
Okay.
Yeah, but all I'm looking for early on is just some compliance. Just that he understands like and it gets in. It would take forever to go through the whole process, but that early teaching him to stop is going to help you later, because there's going to be times when you need to make your teenage dog, 6-month, 10-month, year-old, whatever you want to call a teenager as a dog. You're going to be asking him to stop, whether it's walking on a leash and you're going to stop at a sidewalk, or you're out in the field. If you end up getting into some real bird dog training down the road later on, you're going to want to steady this dog up to at least the word whoa means stop when you're moving. But if he understands stop and it comes from you, or the word whoa, so most people use whoa in the pointing dog world.
Right.
If you use the word whoa early, when you start training him later, let's say with a little check cord on or a leash, and you say whoa, his brain goes right back to the kennel and the house door. He's like, I think that means I should stop.
Right.
So yeah, it's not hard to do. It's just consistent,
So I brought my border collie many years ago, brought him out to the local shotgun range, and we just kind of stayed in the parking lot, far away from the gunshots. And I figured I'd try and introduce my dog to the sound of gunfire.
Right.
Now, a border collie is not your prime hunting dog at all, but I found that every single time I put a long gun up to my shoulder, my dog would come right beside me, lean hard into me, and start shaking. So I probably did something wrong in the introduction to firearms with this dog at some point, and I definitely don't want to repeat that with a dedicated hunting dog.
Right.
How would you introduce them?
Well, there's several ways to do it. probably the most one you're going to hear the most, you'll see on the internet and on YouTube, would be get this dog to chase like a pigeon or a pen-raised bird that you can kind of control the flight of. Pigeons you don't control the flight of, but pigeons never land back on the ground. So you get a pigeon, you let it fly. The dog's in mid pursuit. He thinks he's going to catch it. He can't, but the dog's running. And then in the background back here, you do some light, maybe blank gun, or if you don't have a blank gun, you got to have a friend another 50 yards behind with let's say a 410 shotgun or a 22 rifle. And he still keeps the barrel pointed the opposite direction of the dog. But now this dog is seeing a bird as it's running, and he's hearing boom, 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 little something in his head. But this in his eyes, because of his instincts, where the border collie doesn't have that chase. I bet you if you'd have had a sheep and he was herding a sheep and you were shooting when he was young, he'd probably be like, man, that's the sound of sheep.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Right. The thing about gun clubs, I'm telling you, a lot of people have done it. And I cannot tell those people it didn't work because they did it.
Right.
But what they also have is probably what I refer to as a bulletproof dog. There's some dogs out there that are just so not going to be bothered by noise that it would be literally, you'd have to work at making them gun shy, right? You'd almost have to take a starting pistol and wake him up for breakfast with it in his ear, like, hey, boom, hey, wake up and eat, So there's some dogs. My first short hair, I didn't do any gun training. I took her hunting. But she was chasing a bird. I shot the bird. She associated the noise with the bird. The noise was always good for her.
When did you get your first short hair?
Huh?
How old were you when you first got your first hunting dog?
I was in my 20s when I got one, but when I actually bought one, like with the purpose, I think I was 30, 32, and I'm 64. So yeah, my first purchase, what I call a bred dog, was probably 32 years ago, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Have you noticed a change in sort of training tactics over the years?
Yeah, mostly because in the beginning I didn't train it. I literally had, one of the things I mentioned to you about dogs are the natural cooperation. What that is like, I'm guessing that your border collie was pretty good running around you all the time, right? Didn't run off and leave you for 300 yards. That's bred into the border collie, and that's one of the reasons they're very intelligent, is they're very cooperative. So cooperation is the teamwork. It's not trained. It's the teamwork that the dog gives you. So that border collie probably had a good amount of cooperation. So my first dog had a lot of cooperation, and she literally, in her genetics, her search genetics were inherited from generations of good hunting dogs. So she searched at a pattern that something in her brain said, that's about right. I'll turn, I'll come back. Oh, that's about, So I got very lucky. And then I bought a next dog, which had zero cooperation. So somewhere in my mid-30s, I said, I'm going to have to learn how to train a dog, because this dog, I think I took a trip to Canada one time to go sharptail hunting, and I never shot a bird over. Other people did, but I never shot a bird over my own dog. He's just off doing his thing all day long. Somebody would see him on point. He goes, hey, Ron, Haskell's over here on point. I'm like, good, shoot the bird for him. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, what about the whole male-female thing? Is that an old wives' tale? People saying you got to get a female hunting dog, or is there any truth to that?
I don't think so. I think one of the reasons, if people are pro-male, it's probably because a lot of the champions out there back in the day were male. And the reason that is because they never go into a heat cycle.
Right.
So you've got that when it comes to competition. You've got that when it comes to everyday hunting. You could get a heat cycle. I just had one come up in North Dakota with a dog. So I couldn't get her out with my male. And if another dog would have, it would have been a real catastrophe. So So some people will say one hunt's better than the other. And some dogs, I've been told this, some females like guys better. Some females like the mom better. But that could also be some early imprinting of this stuff we talk about. You know, they're like, oh, there's my boss. And they know the difference. So I'll bet you there's just as many great stories about female hunting dogs as there is male hunting dogs. And you could find, it would be as divided as the United States is politically, right down the middle.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, you just came back from a hunting trip, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
That was when we were chatting last year driving.
Yeah. I went to Northwest North Dakota. In fact, we went up so far northwest that one of my friend's phones, the text said, "Welcome to Canada." Now, it didn't come up on my phone, but he said, yeah, I'm getting some text alert, like, you know, something probably from the border, like something like, "Welcome to Canada, make sure you stop." He's like, "We're getting text from Canada here." So I didn't get that on my phone. But so we were up there. We did some pheasant hunting far up there. We were chasing sharp-tailed grouse, looking for Hungarian partridge, only found one covey. And we did a fair amount of duck hunting, which is probably our bigger success. But this trip was all just a trip with my best friend since we were in diapers and my neighbor and his boy. And it was like no pressure. There was no expectations on this trip. And it went down in history of my trips as probably, you know, top 5 trips I've ever taken. So, yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, you know, once you leave those expectations behind, if the expectation, I find for me personally, if the expectation is the outcome, like how many animals are we going to harvest, or are we going to be successful or not, none of those trips ever rank high with me. If the expectation is, man, we're just going to have a good time, inevitably we do. And if we end up harvesting something, that's just icing on the cake. And and that's, I don't know, that's one of the things, like, in the Silvercore podcast, I try and I find people who are inspirational and sort of groundbreaking in their territory, who are passionate about what they do, and I try my best to A, learn from them, and B, share that passion with others. And more and more, I'm finding that the most passionate and the people who are having the most fun are the ones who are just truly enjoying the process. And like when I look at you, I watch you. So you've been on a few episodes of Meat Eater there, and you're showing Steve how you're making your own lead shot, and you got some nice shotguns that you're using. They're not always the latest, greatest, fanciest thing, but they got some character to them. I mean, that's one thing that I've really taken away from your podcast, from watching you, is that you are the type of person that truly knows how to enjoy the process.
I know. I'm just about to open a beer right now. Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. I mean, now, is this,
when you said meter, I was fortunate enough to be, Steve was Steve and his brothers, but Steve specifically and his brother Danny were some of my earliest employees. He just got out of high school here where he lived. And I ran into his mom, and she said, "My sons are looking for work." And I'm like, "I'm looking for kids." So that's how we met. And so I was fortunate enough to get asked, when his production budget was much smaller, way back in the day, he'd say, "Hey, can you come out to, you know, here and here and do an episode?" So, you know, he'd pay for my gas or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And, but so, I was lucky enough to do that with him. And that's actually the start of my podcast, because Joe Rogan talked him into doing one.
Yeah.
And on one of our hunting trips in Texas that we filmed, he brought out podcast equipment. And I thought you needed a studio.
Right.
I've listened to podcasts for about 4 years at this point, and I thought, I'm not going to find a studio no, you know, I'm not. Good morning, 5 minutes after 7, 7:05. We're, you know, I'm not. And then when I saw we could sit down at the kitchen table and drink beer, I'm like, oh, I'm doing a podcast as soon as I get home.
Sold.
So, what was your podcast background, Travis? I mean, because it's a lot similar, but like, what made you start it? What made you start your?
So I've got a training company, Silvercore Training, and we do, among other things, firearms training and hunter education and outdoor safety training, and Canadian based. And it's something that I love, but I've also got a desire to always create and build things. And I don't know if it's the ADHD in me or what it is, but I'm always looking at other things that I can do to kind of occupy my mind and occupy my time. And there was a growing trend that I found myself sort of being surrounded by in my industry. And I don't know if it's the same in the States, but in Canada, I mean, like there is a social stigma surrounding firearms. There's a social stigma that surrounds hunting. And there's a lot of negativity as well. And I found that I was seeing a lot of that negativity, but in the same breath, there's a lot of positivity and there's a lot of great stories. And I don't know if it's equal on both sides, but I thought, well, I want to be able to change my vantage point to be able to see the positivity, relay that positivity. And so I started the Silvercore Podcast, and we're in the hunting, or no, I don't think they have a hunting category. We're in the wilderness section. What's that? Yeah. The outdoor. Yeah. So we're in that outdoors section on the iTunes chart, but we talk about everything under the sun. Usually it starts with hunting or firearms, but like we've had the last one we just let out was with a British Special Forces commando, and he's talking about his selection process and the rest. I had the inventor of the invisible cloak on the podcast. I don't know if you've heard of this guy. He is so smart, and I thought, well, this is kind of camouflage related, right? This has got something to do with. Are
you talking about the Harry Potter cloak?
Kind of like that. What this guy did. Okay, it's going to sound really fancy. He took an array of lenticular lenses with a special viscous compound in between them to refract light in such a way that the person behind it is not seen, but what's in behind that person is seen. And I wouldn't believe it if I didn't see it. So he brings us in. He brings it into the studio that we have here. His name's Guy Kramer. His grandfather invented the walkie-talkie during the war, and so lineage of really smart dudes. And it's funny because we're having this podcast, and he keeps looking at his watch, right? And this is one of my earlier podcasts. I'm like, oh man, I must be boring him, right? And he keeps looking at his watch, and I'm like, finally, I say, look, if you got to be somewhere, don't let me hold you up. He's like, no, I'm really sorry. This is I'm getting my email notifications come through on the watch. That was Fox News. The other one was, I don't know, CNN or something else, because he just released a trademark and patent on this invisible cloak thing. And you know what it is? Have you ever taken those stickers that you can look at, but you can tilt it and it changes the whatever you see on the sticker? It's like as kids would play with them. Those are lenticular lenses. And he basically took a couple of those things and he put an oil between it. And you can go online, you can see all the videos of people who've tried to copy it. Anyways, positive fellow. Is that related to hunting and firearms? No, but it's a pretty cool story. Or, I mean, like Colin Deller, he was attacked by a grizzly bear and fought it off with his pocket knife. I mean, that's not really hunting, but hey.
But it's a story, yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I started.
Oh, I just was in North Dakota. We didn't really bring layout blinds or anything for duck hunting. We just thought we'd hide in cattails. And some of the ponds did not have cattails, and we would just kind of sit.
Yeah.
That doesn't work real good for a duck,
Nope.
An invisible cloak that you could just reflect whatever else is around you on.
Yeah.
I bet you we're going to see that at Sportsman's Warehouse someday.
I think you will. He tried to sell it to the military, and he says this shouldn't be in civilian hands. And he went around and he did the circuit, but nobody really picked him up on it. And if you look at the videos that he has online, I mean, it's amazing what it does. But it's also got a different application. You can put it over top of solar panels, and I don't know, I don't know the exact number, but it like 10 times or 20 times the amount of light will come through onto your solar panels. So anyways.
So I got to ask, what was it like? So if he was in your studio and he pulled this over him, would you just be kind of seeing a broke up version of your studio? Like
kind of. I took a picture, and it wasn't the best picture of him and I, and we're holding this thing in front of us. And you can see the sort of the frame of the picture and behind us, but we kind of disappear. I mean, if you go on his website, you can see all the videos, and they're optimal. I mean, things just disappear behind it. But I guess that's a bit of a tangent. But yeah, essentially the Silvercore Podcast, I don't monetize it. I mean, I'm sure there's there's ancillary benefits to having the Silvercore name out there, but I do it because I love talking with people like yourself. I love learning things, and I want to surround myself and others with the positive things that are in both of our realms.
Yeah. I'm sure you get those emails that like, yep, that's why I'm doing the podcast, right? Somebody will write you from a guest and you really feel like, philanthropic's the wrong word. That's like for money. You really feel like, wow, this guy would not have wrote me an email if he didn't mean it. And it's almost sometimes a little gushy. You're like, wow, I can't believe I got you to get back into the hunting world and got you to buy a dog, or got you to, like in your case, like, yeah, I used to shoot and now I'm going to shoot again. Or so, sometimes that's all you need for payment, and it's fun. It is.
Yeah, it is fun. And really, I don't know, at the end of the day, everyone's got to make a living. Everyone's got to do something to retire and have the nice things that you want to have. But the real positive change that you can affect in the community typically isn't something that comes directly from your job. And it's something that, as a byproduct of your passion, your endeavor will probably end up generating revenue. But if you look at it from a revenue standpoint, I think it's a dead end.
Yeah.
I mean, you've 2012, I think it was, when you started your podcast?
No, it was 2015. I'm going to be in my, I've done it for almost 7 years now. So next year will be my 8th year, starting my 8th year.
Did you find it hard to start, or were you just natural like you are now?
Well, I found it like, I want to do it. And like, who's going to be my first guest? Right. So I got my oldest hunting buddy to come over here and drink beer with me. Yeah. And we just started rehashing a trip to South Dakota. I'm like, well, I guess that's what it is. But you mentioned something about me and like making my own shells. And I'm not calling myself genuine, but I never change. You can ask my wife. I never change.
I'm sure she'll agree.
Just like drinking a beer or smoking a cigar, I'm like, no, I'm not going to not do that because that's what I do. And that just resonates with people. Like, I mean, I say sarcastically, I'm trying to bring smoking back. I think we had a better, but that's because when everybody smoked, it was just a better country back then. So maybe it was the country. Maybe the cigarettes and the cigars did not have anything to do with it. But maybe we've banned this so bad that some people that might be cool were like, God, if I could just have a cigarette, I'd be great. I hate censorship,
I agree.
And, again, I know if you're sitting in a restaurant, nobody wants to smell a cigarette coming off the ashtray.
Yeah.
But when I grew up, you smoked on planes.
Yeah.
You smoked in the last 5 rows. Now, at that age, I don't think I was smoking. Didn't seem to bother me, but that's because my mom blew cigarette smoke into my baby blanket. So, I mean, it obviously didn't bother me.
Reminds you of mom.
Reminds me of mom. But, so yeah, being real, like you said, you're just so passionate about what you do that you're not trying to convert people. You're just trying to celebrate the passion, kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
And by default, you end up surrounding yourself with more like-minded people who have that same passion and same drive.
Oh, yeah. Like, I think most podcasters, I don't know if they did a murder mystery or whatever, it's kind of like we all served a little term together figuring out how to do it. That first episode. What am I going to do next week? How did you pick a first guest for yours, for Silvercore?
Just like you, I had a couple of friends, and so both of them are retired Vancouver City Police, and from the training background, I look at it and I said, well, I figure every single episode I put out should have some educational components. Like if I'm asking for somebody's time to listen to me for X amount of time, what value am I imparting to them? And so I figured, well, it's got to have some training components, and so I'd kind of draft out all the different things that we'd try and have covered, or it's got to have some entertainment value. And it wasn't until sitting down with, well, there's a couple, but I don't know, Brad Brooks from our galley, and I remember before doing the podcast with him, just like with you, we have a little bit of preamble, we talk back and forth. He's like, If you want to talk about whatever technical things that I do with hunting, sure, yeah, we can do it. I mean, like, they make the game bags, and yeah, we could talk about that. But honestly, I'm more interested just to tell stories. I want to see what you're about, and I'd love to be able to share some of my stories. And I'm like,
Yeah.
just like you're saying, this whole world of social media that's been so polished, and everybody knows it's fake, right? For the most part, you look at all this polish, they want to see something real, and they want to be able to connect with the people that they're listening to or they're watching.
Mm-hmm.
And if they happen to be entertained and educated in the process, even better.
It's a bonus. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'll bring guests on that are not usually entertaining, but very informative. And that's a podcast where I want them to do a lot of the talking.
Right.
Like a habitat biologist.
Right.
I've had several of those on, and I'm kind of like, when I got them on and they're on a roll about habitat and biology and pollinators, I'm like, oh,
right.
So then I feel like one of my own listeners.
Yeah.
Like that's why they like this, because I just learned something. They got to like it, And then in my particular case, because I'm known for being such a drinker, well, I am. I mean, my dad said, I drove a beer truck in Chicago for 2 years when I was 20 and 21 years old.
Yeah.
I drove a Pabst Blue Ribbon tractor trailer and delivered beer to stores.
Awesome.
And you cannot imagine how much beer. I think the other day, a buddy of mine, my best friend since I was, like I said, right around diapers. We don't remember ourselves, but we were next door neighbors. And he goes, "How much beer do you think you drank?" I'm like, "I don't know." So I got my calculator out. And I didn't drink early. I wasn't like a 13-year-old delinquent, Like
right.
I didn't smoke a cigarette until I was old enough to buy cigarettes.
Yeah.
But my mom smoked, and she said, "Oh, you're smoking?" I'm like, "Well, yeah." She goes, "Well, I certainly can't tell you not to." So
Yeah.
when it came to beer drinking, I was not like the high school party kid. We were out trying to chase bugs and flies and try to hunt and trap. And even though we were in the city of Chicago, but when it came to like drinking, when I was able to say, get into some place or go to Wisconsin where it was only 18, I took to that like a flight of shit.
Yeah.
And then I drove this beer truck, and the job is called driver salesman. It was a union. It's a union. I think it was local 743 in Chicago. I think it was. And so my first day I'm with this other driver, and I'm his helper, which means I got to do all the work.
Right. Of course.
12 packs on the dolly, bring them down the stairs, stock you don't stock the shelves, but you make sure the beer's in the shelf where people can see it. And old Bill was over at the bar having a short glass of beer, and that's right after breakfast, because the bartender would pour him a shorty glass.
Yeah.
And he'd get the bill made out, and he'd say, "You want a glass?" I'm like, "I'm dying from work." I'm like, "Yeah, let me have a glass." Okay. That would go on all day long,
Wow.
every 5 days a week. And I'm not saying I have it. Good friends of mine have literally told me, "Ron, I don't think I've ever seen you out of control in your life. I've seen you on stage, might have seen the lampshade once,
Right.
but I have and I drink very light. I drink light beer. I don't drink high content beer. I don't drink alcohol, like what I call alcohol. I don't drink wine. I don't drink bourbon. I'll sip on something once in a blue moon, but I have some innate, maybe it's just because of conditioning. I've been pulled over 3 times for suspicion of DUI.
Yeah.
And never blew illegal. Now I don't know how to explain that.
Some horseshoes, maybe? I don't know.
Horseshoe up my ass. The one I got under the seat of the truck. Again, I know at those times that I had alcohol in my breath.
Yeah.
But I wasn't in a bar, drinking. But I was on a hunting trip once, and I got pulled over. And of course, you could smell it on my breath.
Right.
And this cop made me do 3 times into this straw. And he's like, he was literally like, "I don't understand this." Like he was taking the thing and going like, "This thing's broken."
Good genetics.
Anyway, That just goes back to I always am who I am,
Yeah.
and I mean, I could tell from talking to you the other day, and you're like kind of guy we'd bump in if we sat down on a plane together. It's not the guy you're not going to talk to. It's the guy that's going to make the whole flight go by in
Totally.
blink of an eye. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it sounds like a dream job. I don't know why you left that one.
Yeah. It was a good job. It was a good job. Unfortunately, I forget I think it was a Monday morning. I took what was called a barrel truck. I had to do a barrel run. So it's a different truck. It's a straight bed truck. And I was starving. I was probably out all day at a barbecue or whatever. Got up more starving, hungry. And I pulled into a McDonald's drive-thru. And thank God there was a car under the canopy at the drive-thru window. But so I stopped with the front end of this old International, literally manual steering box truck. And I'm right behind this car. But what I didn't realize was that the sign that said clearance up above said like clearance 9.6.
Yeah.
I was just thinking McDonald's. So when I pulled up and stopped, the box in my truck was literally up against that sign. I didn't know it. And when that car pulled up, I let off the clutch and all the glass started breaking and coming down under the hood of my truck.
No.
So I didn't take the canopy down or anything.
Yeah.
But it gave my boss some pause for keeping me going. So I went back into construction.
Gotcha. So that must have been what you hired Steve and his bros for, was being construction, was it?
Right. Yeah. Steve and Danny and Matt. So yeah, I just jumped back into construction and started my own crew. But I mean, is your background military or law enforcement, or what's yours? Because I know on that podcast you did with April Vokey, and I'm a huge fan of April Vokey.
Yeah.
You said, she asked you a question that was like, well, you're kind of known as the gun guy. And you're like, no, I don't want to be known as the gun guy.
Well, I've always.
What's your background?
So, yeah, my background, aside from being in the Army Cadet program as a teenager and going through that, that's the closest to military I've ever been. I've got family background in law enforcement. My father and grandfather were law enforcement. I just was a bit of a delinquent in school, in elementary school and high school, and wasn't really fitting in. And I did like to blow things up. And nowadays, after 9/11, that's not something that would wear well. But back in the day, it was just, hey, this is chemistry, or this is engineering, or this is... And actually, one of the fellows, he was the head of the police academy here at the Justice Institute in British Columbia. And he says, Trav, why don't you come on and take a few courses? They might be right up your alley. And they're firearms related courses. So at 18 years old, I started packing a gun on my hip and was working as an armored car guard. And I thought, hey, this will be a good step in the right direction for law enforcement or military. I flew over actually to the UK because I was going to join the British military. But I went through the process with our local police department, Vancouver Police. I scored top of my intake on the written. I came third on the physical because you can actually see based on where you place on everybody else.
Right.
And they said, well, Trav, you're kind of young. Come on back when you got a bit more experience. And I've always kind of been entrepreneurial minded. I mean, my first job I had, I was performing magic at kids' birthday parties when I was in grade 4 or grade 5, right? I mean, I'm like, what can I do? I can make some money. And even before that, when I was working for the armored car company, I was welding up all their hand trucks for them because I thought, well, geez, how can I make a couple extra bucks? And then I started doing their gunsmithing for them. Went down to Springfield, Massachusetts, to the Smith & Wesson factory and got myself trained up on their wheel guns. And of course, I guess Springfield's moving now. I think they're going to Tennessee or something. So always had that sort of background, that knowledge base. And I decided, well, geez, maybe my life experience will be, I'll start a business, and, most businesses fail. And so if I go through that and I suck at it, then I can show that life experience and go back and try the policing route. I didn't suck. It took off, and I've never looked back. And then we do work with law enforcement for firearms repair and maintenance. We do work with like the armored car industry, doing use of force training, and I'm a subject matter expert with the courts for both defense and Crown Counsel for firearms and use of force and weapons related things. But that's not, I don't know. That's just one aspect of what I do. I mean, I wouldn't call you the construction guy. I know that you can do it.
Yeah,
right?
that is what I'm probably the best at. You're right.
Right.
But,
Right.
Well,
no, you're.
That was because I assumed when I talked to you and I was watching you in April on your podcast, I'm like, oh, he's a Navy SEAL or something,
Nope.
or a Royal Marines or something. I just assumed, right? And I'm like, nah, he looks like he's about 6'3" and ripped. I'm like, this guy's gonna tear someone's head off. Do you have a fighting background?
I do. Yeah, so both non-professionally and when I say non-professionally, I got into a lot of fights when I was younger, and then in a more organized perspective, I got into Muay Thai, kickboxing, and jiu-jitsu and Aikido. And then Arnis was kind of a neat one. But you do jiu-jitsu, don't you?
Sticks, Arnis.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, look at you.
I did not do any research on that, but like you said, when you meet somebody, it's like there's something about him. If it's not military, it's martial arts.
Yeah.
So I got into. I took some Shotokan class in high school at somebody else's school, but there's a little rabbit hole. But when I got divorced, I was married for a very short time to the very wrong person. No kids, no harm, no fault. But when I got divorced, I wanted to go kick this other guy's ass,
Sure.
And then I was told that, well, he's a state police officer and he protects the governor of Illinois. Well, that's not going to be a good guy to go against. So now I said, I'm going to get into so I took Kenpo and I was in that for a long time. You mentioned ADD and ADHD. I've got some version of that because I got to reread and reread. Mm-hmm. So learning all the katas and techniques took me a long time. I earned a brown belt in that. Fought competitively, but not for money in amateur, like tournaments.
Right.
And I would do the forms. I would do the weapons. So when you said our niece, I would do, and then I would also do the sparring or kumite.
Yeah.
So I did that and did that in Chicago for a long time when I was still in Chicago. Found schools up in Michigan, and then with having 3 daughters, there was always a heavy bag in my life. There was always a heavy bag.
Yes.
There was always on the road. I'd go to a dojo and say, "What's your walk-in policy? Can I walk in for a week?" And I would go take taekwondo. Was never a big fan of I wasn't built for taekwondo. Just I'm not a leggy, well-stretched guy, but. I mean, and I would even enter tournaments in other cities. So it's like so weird. And then when you said jiu-jitsu, listening to damn Joe Rogan, I started jiu-jitsu at age 58.
Holy crow.
Yeah.
Because of Joe Rogan.
Because of Joe Rogan. Yep.
Yeah. That's the power of the podcast, right?
Yep. And that's why I started my podcast, because he got Steve to start a podcast. So that man has no idea how influential he's been on me. Jiu-jitsu is by far, it's the most, I've never enjoyed a martial art as much as jiu-jitsu because it's so, you can put 100% into it. And if you're careful, not get hurt,
Yes.
Yeah. Like Muay Thai, that's some deadly shit there. But
it's fantastic for your conditioning.
Oh, yeah. But you can't show a guy a technique at full strength just to show him the technique.
That's
technique involves breaking his face on your knee. Right?
Yes.
But in jiu-jitsu, you can get yourself locked up, tied up, choked out, armbarred, and you can tap. Yeah. But you have that as close to feeling as. So at age 60, no, 58, 9, 60, age 61, took me a long time. I only went a couple days a week. I earned my blue belt, which was enough to send me to the belt. Yeah.
Good for you. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I don't even know.
Are you still training?
When COVID hit, the school closed. And the school near me, I did find a school last summer that's near me. I walked in, did a couple classes. I liked the class. And it's probably as soon as hunting season's over, I talked to the professor there, and I'm gonna join up and get back there a couple days a week, because it doesn't get your legs in shape for hunting, but boy, it gets your heart going.
Get your heart going like crazy. Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, a little bit of a segue here, but training. So I've got the training background, training company. That's what I do. And I've always had a keen interest in online training. And I happen to know that you've got some background in online training as well, don't you?
Well, now I do. 2 years ago, I didn't. But a friend of mine who's a dog trainer in this area in West Michigan, he would come on my podcast and we would do question and answer segments. And they were always well received. I'm sure you get certain guests on. And in the beginning, you always look at your download numbers. You're like, sure. People are listening. Yep. I don't look at it anymore. And hold on, I got to turn that ringer off. I don't look at downloads anymore until I load up an episode and it pops up there on my feed. And, and it's always pretty consistent. Hang on, I got to get that off. And so the guy that I used to bring on, Justin McGrail, he was a really good dog trainer. And I tried to talk him into doing like some YouTube clips and stuff like that. Just let's show some people some of the stuff you do. He's like, he is not a computer guy. He's not a phone guy. He's much younger than me, but you'd swear he was born in the 1800s.
Awesome.
The phone to him is just someone's got to call me, so I have to have a phone. But that's all he wants it for, right? If a tin can and a string would work, he'd be happy with it.
My kind of guy.
So he looked at some YouTube videos. He's like, no. He said, I am not putting myself out on YouTube. And sorry, Ron, I enjoy doing the podcast with you now. I've got a little rhythm going. I enjoy the questions. He said, and then one day we're kicking something around and it just turned into like, well, what if we filmed what you do? So it's not like the only way to train a dog. It's just the way he trains his dogs.
Right.
He guides for like 6 weeks in Montana, 6 weeks in Arizona. Now on those trips, there's some non-hunting season time. But anyway, this guy used to be on the road 12 weeks a year just guiding wild bird hunts in Arizona and Montana. So, I mean, he is as real as you can get when it comes to wild bird dog and the training it takes to make that dog. So we started coming up with this, cockamamie idea that we're going to have an online training school. We didn't know what that meant, but in now a year and a half of filming and 8 months of editing, it's out there. It's called the Upland Institute. It's based on all the dogs we use are pointing dogs. So, I mean, for the few listeners that you or I would have, they'd be like, okay, I know what a German Shorthair is, a pointer, and a Labrador is a flushing dog. But there's a lot of same stuff in those dogs. Just one happens to flush a bird, one happens to point. So this course is tailor-made for a pointing dog, but it's also tailor-made for if you got a new dog, it's tailor-made for like, what do I do with this dog when it's young? When you asked early on, how do I, when does training start? Well, it starts early. And there's a lot of little things that, I've known this guy for a long time. I'm like, I didn't know you did that with your puppy when he was that age. Like just these little things. And so we filmed it, and then we filmed it when they got older, and then we just went into the weeds with it, and we felt that we had enough content to, create, we had somebody create a website. And so I had no background in online training.
Yeah.
But, I kind of do now, but like, how did you do? I mean, did you go at it like with your eyes closed, like we do with podcasts, or were you doing live training and then turned it to online?
So yes and no. So when we talk about the whole ADHD thing, and I've joked in other podcasts about it. So I was diagnosed with ADHD at a young age. I don't even know if I have ADHD, but it would just seem like be the common thing that people would diagnose with. But I do know that I'm always looking at new things, and I'm always trying to invent or create. And on the training side, I did not do well in school, which is really funny for a guy who now owns a training company. But I was able to take, like, from the cadet side, the man management, method of instruction, and all the military techniques for providing training, whether it be theoretical or practical training. And I thought, man, they kind of got it dialed in. They can take people from all different spectrums, from the lowest common denominator to bright people, get them all on the same page, get them trained up, get them proficient, and get them going. So I looked at that, and by around 2004, 2005, I was already certified as a master instructor within the firearms training here. This designation from our RCMP for just some really basic sort of safety training that we do, but I'm able to train other trainers. And I started having talks with the different government officials about saying, you guys got to put your stuff online. You have to have some sort of consistency in the delivery and the approach, and looking at these benefits. And it kind of fell on deaf ears, despite all the different people I was talking with, and they're flying people from back east over here. And I thought, man, they're just pumping me for information, and they're going to go do it themselves. Right. So I started delving deeper and deeper into sort of the online training world. And there's pros and cons. I mean, you can learn a lot in an in-person course that you wouldn't get online, and vice versa.
Right. Vice versa.
Totally. So how do we speak to those pros in the online? Because being a small business owner and having employees, our reach is only so far. We've got the lower mainland, we've got our locations. You can only get so many people in a classroom, and you can only have so many instructors, right? And instructors will have a turnover rate. How can we sort of systemize that so people can get the quality of information and sort of without the downside of that administrative side? And that's sort of where the online training kind of came in. And I took it from an approach. I wanted to build a SaaS, or a software as a service. And I had, at the end, I think it was 5 different programmers building something for me. And I had zero business building a SaaS. And I sunk a lot of money and time and energy into this, only to realize there's other ways we can skin this cat. And so the online training's been a passion. And right now we hold the contract for provincial hunter education training in British Columbia. Mm-hmm. And every dollar that I have coming back in from that goes back into new hunter recruitment, hunter retention, getting people into the activity that I enjoy, and hopefully try and introduce them to some of the reasons for that enjoyment. Right. We've tripled our province's take on what they've been bringing in, which is fantastic, and massive new hunter retention, or recruitment and hunter retention. So that's sort of a passion project. And I'm sure if I keep following that passion, at some point there will be a monetary reward at the end, but that's not why I do it. Sort of long-winded, but I think that kind of touches on why I got into it.
Did you run into the like, oh my God, we have to film this and on camera, and is it?
Yes.
That's that, like, oh shit moment. Like, no wonder why I can watch television. There's a lot of stuff that goes on to make that television show, right? And a lot of footage just never gets seen by anybody,
Our very first course that we put together and put online, and I put a press release out on Newswire for it, and we hired a fellow to do sort of the filming and production of it. And so I learned a lot about the process of like scripting and storyboarding and kind of what's involved. I also learned, holy crow, some of these people that get into this, I don't know, I'm using air brackets for people who are listening, but this Hollywood mentality, or this Hollywood world, I have never had somebody be able to push my buttons so either this guy could. And holy crow, it was like we would get somebody trained up, and I would find an appropriate male model and female model, or actor or actress for different things. And And on the night before, he would fire them, and he says, "Oh, I met somebody out at the Surrey SkyTrain station, and we're going to give them the job." And I mean, it was all over the board, and I was so frustrated by the end. We had a final product. It cost a lot more than I wanted. That I went out and I purchased my own audio equipment, my own video equipment, and I figured if one man can do it, another can do it. I'm going to figure this out. And we started proceeding with our future courses from that perspective.
Yeah. And I'm sure that this was not a COVID thing. It could be a COVID thing, because of everybody being able to go out. And certainly it's way more popular. I mean, kids are going to school online, which that was unheard of. I mean, I'm sure there were some college courses that you could take online back in the day. I always heard the commercials.
Yeah.
But getting into that it's almost like sometimes you're so proud of it. And the other part is like, well, why wouldn't people just come to me and learn this? Well, but then you could reach, like you said, you can reach so many more people, what you've done with the numbers for, the hunter safety. And I know there's an online hunter safety. Now, I'm old enough that most places I don't need a hunter safety card.
Right.
In fact, I remember I took my twin daughters and my youngest daughter to Kansas. So that would have been, I don't know, long time ago. They were just getting their driver's permit. They were 15.
Yeah.
And they're in their mid-30s. So 15 plus years ago. And I had not hunted Kansas previously. I've hunted South Dakota, North Dakota, Texas, Oklahoma, all over, but never hunted Kansas. So I go, and there was computers then, so you could do some research. Wasn't that long ago, but I went on there and it said, enter your hunter safety number. And it said, or check here if you're old enough. I'm like, well, fine, of course I'm old enough. Well, I already put my information down up in the top. I hit the button didn't say, of course I'm old enough, but it was, and it said, little red line came up. You are not old enough. I'm like, what?
Really?
I'm not old enough. They didn't even have good automatic shotguns when I started hunting. Anyway, turns out I was like 8 months too young to just go to the state of Kansas and them trust me to have firearms. So I had to take a hunter safety course. So
come on.
Yeah. And so my kids did it in high school, which was great. They had boater safety. We're in a rural area of Michigan. They had boater safety, hunter safety, all kinds of things, they took. Yeah. And so I had to do a hunter safety class when I was like in my 40s. Like, I know more about guns than you do, but it would have been.
Did you learn anything? Not really, eh?
Not really. It was pretty rudimentary,
Yeah.
And the instructor that I know, he's like, probably shouldn't say it, but I think statute of limitations right now. He goes, we don't need to go in the field for the field.
Right.
Part.
Right.
But you've answered all the questions on the,
Yeah.
I did. But I think that hunter safety, I think that is so cool that's out there for the kids, because it's not going to teach you how to shoot a bird, but it's going to drill that one or two things into your head, and I drilled it into my kids. It's that, where's that barrel pointing? Where is that barrel pointing? And if that's what it does, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, we tell people, I said, if you violate all of the other safety principles, if your finger is on the trigger, you didn't check to see if it was loaded, you trip, you fall, it goes bang, but at the very least, you control that muzzle direction. You've got no loss of life. You have minimal property damage. Your ears are ringing. People are screaming at you.
Right.
But that's the fundamental of all of that safety. But I think for my personal standpoint, and I'm still learning, but for sort of, let's say, talk about online hunter education, I think it could do so much more than what it currently does. I mean, we live in such a litigious society that everybody's now says, well, geez, like you look at the ERT members, well, are you door kicker certified? If you're not door kicker certified, you can't get a door in, right? Everyone figures if you have a certificate or some sort of piece of paper over your head, then you're going to be competent and proficient in what you do. or maybe it's from the other side. Now, an organization can say, hey, we've done our part, right? We've done our due diligence. No one can come after us.
Right.
But what if they use hunter education in a way to motivate and inspire people to get outside? And what if it was put out in such a way that maybe wasn't necessarily strictly hunter education, but that could be a component of it? Because any course that you do about hunting, hunter education, it's not going to teach you how to hunt. It'll teach you how to be safe, and it'll teach you how to be legal. But what about the vast majority of people that go to school that maybe just want to learn how to hike and have some knowledge of the flora and fauna around them, or be safe in bear country? And I think if it was maybe modularized and put out in such a way that could have attract a much wider audience, then the whole conversation around hunting could be talked about. Maybe talked about in a different light. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I kind of envy the kids that can do it. I not envy them, but I'm glad they do it. But it would be cool if that class was just more than just what it was. Just a little bit more, like almost like a teaser commercial for a movie.
Right. There you go. So you're installing the passion, right?
Right. Because you could, you remember going to school and the guy would put a movie on. It was health education. You're like,
totally.
But, and I'm being obviously way off the rails here. If health education had 2 or 3 minutes of all right, let's say soft porn, not porn, but 2 or 3 minutes of like.
Well, the kids would be paying attention.
Pretty good. See, those students would be like, "Oh, and I'm going to be careful too." So
right.
Your hunter safety course has to expand into like some hunting segments. Some ducks dropping out of the sky, the tailgate talk. Yeah.
So everyone says, "Oh man, why can't you teach whatever?" Right? Oh, I wish we went to the range on this, like in Canada, in order to get a firearms license, you have to have some basic safety training, about the laws and history and actions and safety and all the rest. And they say, "Oh man, we should have a live fire portion." And some countries do that, like Germany will have that. Yeah. And I say, well, each one of those would be a barrier to lawful firearms ownership. There are important points that people can know about, but what if you instill a passion, some just rudimentary fundamentals, and instill sort of the drive to want to learn more? And that's what we try and do with our courses. Because, we got YouTube. You can learn anything you want on YouTube or through Google. The issue is you got to sort through a lot of garbage to get there.
Right.
And where your course is really good, this is a particularly curated course for someone, it curates all of this information. It's not the only way to train your hunting dog, but it's a proven method that works for you and your friends and the people that you. And I think that's where the value is in online training.
Yeah.
Condensed, curated content that'll get somebody where they need to go in a quick way. When you look at it from a certification standpoint and checking boxes, or I got to sit in front of my computer for X amount of time, you're probably like me. If I have to do an online course, I'm going to go to the very end and do the test and see what do I know and what don't I know, right?
Yeah, just like we were in school.
Totally, right? If you want to be somewhere else, I didn't want to be in school.
Right. Well, I'll leave it up to you to work on the Better Hunter Trainer Safety online school, and you leave it up to me to work on the our tagline is "Be a Better Trainer."
Oh, I love it. I'm gonna sign up for your course, and I'm gonna put links in the podcast, both on the podcast and in YouTube, so anyone else who wants to check it out can.
Appreciate it.
Oh, totally. All right. Well, is there anything else we should be chatting about?
No, nothing unless we got into like rabbit holes. But no. It was good. It was great to meet you. I feel like we could go on the mat together. I gotta go. I still gotta roll in a gi. I don't like no gi because I'm old. I still need something to hang on to, a collar.
Yeah.
But I feel like if we ever bumped into each other, you say, "Hey, let's get on the mat and let's roll." And there, to me, the jiu-jitsu world. Yeah, that's kind of like the hunting world. Like, there's like a weird brotherhood to
totally is
martial arts in general, but jiu-jitsu is like, oh my God, It's the best thing I ever did in my life. I just wish I'd have started earlier,
Well,
I cannot tell people and I could not. The last class I went to, when you said am I still in it? Well, I was out of it completely for the big COVID part, and I really missed going. And I'm in worse shape now than because I haven't done it. But I can get that back. But when I went to this class, to this school that's in my town now, because I used to travel to go to do this. It was an hour away, and which in Canada may not be a long ways, but it was an hour.
That's just down the road. Come on.
Yeah, it's just like going to Montana. Yeah, I'm going to go to Billings today, right? But on the second class, I was there, and I was really sucking some air, pretty good. I was like, I could still remember how to defend myself, but I wasn't getting very far. Mm-hmm. And the professor. He's very, very nice guy. And he says, Ron, you going to roll again? Come on, get another partner. I said, hang on a minute. I literally, being my chatty Cathy on stage self, I said, hold on, everybody. Hold on. I said, could some of you kids bring your dads tomorrow? Just some of you bring your dads in here. So I got someone near my decade to roll with. But no, that's, I'd say other than dogs, bird hunting, and people, like jujitsu's number 4.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to have to get into some rabbit holes maybe at another time if you'll have me. But
oh hell yeah, we'll go down my gun stuff, your gun stuff, martial arts stuff. We could touch on ADHD because they didn't diagnose me because I didn't sit still long enough to be diagnosed.
Bang, you're out the door. We can talk about the Beretta that I sold, nice over under, like EEL that I sold for $800.
Oh yeah, yeah. There we go. I think that'll be fun. Let's make sure we do it once or twice a year.
It sounds great, Ron. Well, thanks very much. This has been a lot of fun.
It's been a pleasure. I made another new friend.
Ditto.